It's clear that at the moment we cannot fight with those cars.
Then also I stopped racing and then we all together.
Listen, guys, something really crazy is happening in Formula One right now, and honestly, most people are sleeping on it. Max Verstappen, the guy who literally owned this sport for years, is not enjoying racing anymore. Red Bull is falling apart, and the FIA is making rule changes that even the drivers think are wrong. Hold on, because by the end of this video, you're going to see exactly why 2026 might be the most dramatic season F1 has ever seen. Max is not happy. So let's start with the biggest story. Max Verstappen is genuinely unhappy with Formula One right now, and this is not just some post-race frustration talking. He has straight up said that the 2026 regulations are fundamentally wrong and that no matter what small tweaks the FIA makes, the core problem is still there. Now think about that for a second. This is a guy who has been winning championships back-to-back, and he's sitting there saying the sport doesn't feel right anymore. What exactly is bothering him? Well, the 2026 rules brought in massive changes to the power units, and there's a huge shift toward electrical energy management. This means drivers have to constantly lift and coast, basically letting off the gas to save energy during the race. And for a racer like Max, who loves to push flat out every single lap, this feels completely unnatural. He even said, and I'm not joking here, that he would rather go back to V10 or V8 engines. Those engines were last used in 2005 and 2013, respectively. That tells you everything about how frustrated this man actually is. He's not just complaining about performance, he is questioning the whole direction of the sport. And when Max Verstappen starts talking like that, you know something serious is going on. The retirement bombshell. Now, here's where things get even more intense, because Max didn't stop at just criticizing the rules. He actually hinted that he might leave Formula One at the end of this season. Yeah, you heard that right. The guy who dominated this sport is now openly talking about walking away. He said that forcing himself to give 100% when he's not enjoying it is, in his own words, not very healthy. And honestly, that's a pretty heavy thing to say publicly. He even went out and raced at the Nürburgring in a GT3 car just to remind himself what actual fun driving feels like. That right there says a lot. When your own world champion is going elsewhere to find joy behind the wheel, that's a massive red flag for the sport. Damon Hill, the former F1 champion, came out and said that if Max leaves, Formula One is looking at enormous problems. Because let's be real, Verstappen is one of the biggest reasons millions of people tune in every single race weekend. Losing him wouldn't just be a storyline, it would be a genuine crisis for the entire sport. Red Bull's collapse. Okay, so now let's talk about Red Bull, because this story gets even wilder. Just a couple of seasons ago, this team was practically unbeatable, and right now they are sitting 6th in the Constructors' Championship. Max himself is down in 9th place in the driver standings behind both McLaren drivers, both Ferrari drivers, both Mercedes drivers, and even behind Haas driver Ollie Behrman. That is genuinely shocking when you think about where this team was just 2 years ago. And the reason behind this collapse isn't just the new car regulations. Red Bull has been losing key people one by one. Adrian Newey, the genius engineer who basically designed their championship-winning cars, is gone. Jonathan Wheatley left too, and now Max's longtime race engineer Gianpiero Lambiase has announced he's heading to McLaren. These are not small losses. These are the people who built that dynasty. And with all of them gone, the question everyone is asking is whether Red Bull can actually bounce back, or whether this is the beginning of the end for them as a top team. The FIA steps in. So with all this pressure building up from drivers, teams, and fans, the FIA finally decided to act. After 3 separate meetings with all the key stakeholders throughout April, they announced a package of rule tweaks that are set to come into effect starting from the Miami Grand Prix this weekend. These changes mostly focus on energy management and safety, basically trying to reduce the extreme lift and coast situations that have been ruining the racing. Now, Max did acknowledge that some changes are coming, but he still believes the fundamental problems haven't been fixed. The FIA, on the other hand, insists this is an evolution, not a revolution, and that the core package is still solid. So we basically have 2 sides that are both saying they're right, and the Miami race is going to be the first real test of whether these tweaks actually make a difference on track. The secret Silverstone test. Now, here's something most people actually missed. Right after the Nürburgring, Max jumped straight back into the Red Bull just 3 days later for a secret filming day at Silverstone. And this wasn't just some casual PR run. Leaked photos showed serious changes to the car, including a revised front wing, redesigned side pods, and a brand new rear wing configuration. Red Bull basically used this session to quietly test their Miami upgrade package. The whole goal was to fix that nervous and unstable car behavior that has been destroying their season. And the most interesting part is that Red Bull actually copied Ferrari's Macarena wing concept and tested their own version of it at Silverstone. So while Max is publicly criticizing everything, behind the scenes, the whole team is working overtime to find their way back to the front. Miami is about to show us whether that Silverstone work actually meant anything. What happens next? Here's the thing that makes this whole situation so fascinating to follow. Everything is kind of hanging in the balance right now. If the Miami rule changes actually improve the racing and Max starts enjoying it more, maybe he stays. If Red Bull can somehow find performance in the second half of the season, maybe the comeback story begins. But if things stay the same or get worse, we could genuinely be watching the final season of Max Verstappen in Formula One. And on top of all that, there are rumors floating around that Max could follow Lambiasi to McLaren eventually, which would be absolutely insane to watch unfold. Every single race from here is basically a chapter in what might be the most dramatic storyline this sport has produced in a very long time. The final verdict. All right, guys, so let's wrap this up quickly. In today's video, we talked about how Max is genuinely struggling to enjoy the 2026 cars because of the new energy rules, how he's actually hinting at retirement at the end of this season, and how Red Bull has gone from a dominant force to a team in real trouble after losing their best people. Personally, I think Max is not going anywhere just yet. I think Miami is going to change things a little bit, and Red Bull will slowly start finding their feet again. But here's the question I want to leave you with. If Max Verstappen actually left Formula One at the end of 2026, do you think the sport would ever be the same without him? Drop your answer in the comments, because honestly, I'd love to know what you guys think. And if you enjoyed this video, you already know what to do.